we teach a method called the Shin Fu, and it is designed to ask the proper questions to the proper people.
Welcome to the Contractor Sales Academy podcast. I'm Tom. I'm with Steve and Derek. What's up, fellas?
Well, not me, man. I mean, we have beautiful weather here in Maryland, but if I feel lucky because it's actually Tuesday, but it feels like Monday because we got a free day yesterday, and
Right.
so I kind of
That's
still
true.
feel like I'm on vacation, or I'm at least halfway through the work week. And I know, Derek, you're actually still on vacation halfway through the
I'm
work week.
I'm still on vacation, and yeah, I had to slept myself off the beach about an hour ago, get cleaned up and look presentable for the podcast. And I mean,
I'd like to do this
it's
every
tough.
day, Derek. Just think of this every day. You get up,
Hey,
I go down to the beach today. You know what the hell?
that's a so I see this older gentleman. He's probably in his 50s, and we've been here, I guess, 4 or 5 days now. And he comes down with his paddleboard. He's in shape, and he comes and he sets up. He has his cooler, and he'll paddleboard out, go, backside of the breakers, and he comes back around, sits down, might have a beer, see him reading a book, and it seems right around lunchtime he'll go back out and paddle a little more, come back, and then he'll take a fishing pole out and come back a little longer, maybe have another beer, go back out for one more paddleboard. And I'm going, that's what I want. That's how I want to live at the beach.
There you go.
So, Tom, what the audience doesn't know is that we always do a webinar right after this podcast. The three of us do a podcast, and two of us
Yep.
leave, and one of us does our weekly webinar for our CSA group. And that's exactly one of the topics I'll be talking about today is, it's like the dog that goes chasing a car, but he doesn't really think ahead of time. Like, what if he actually catches a car? Like, what if he catches it? What does he do? He's like, now what? And a lot of us hit this financial freedom, and we hit that point that you're talking about, Derek, and then we're like, oh, now what? And
Yeah.
I guess now what is paddleboarding 3 times a day?
Business is simply dealing with people. You have to know who to go over, who to go under, who to go around, who to go through, who. From the man who made America's, from the man who made America series, it's actually Donnie Dutch.
Yeah, Donnie Deutsch, right? So
Yep.
that's what I get for my memo. I use voice dictation. But here's my question to Derek. Before we actually get into this topic, you just mentioned you've been going to the beach for how many years?
10 years.
Okay, so somewhere around 5 years ago, 4 years ago, you started this journey of actually learning how to talk to people, how to identify the people to talk to sell to them, to sell your stuff. And I know, and I want to hear from you, what is the difference of the quality of the rental home you have now versus
Oh,
5 years ago because of what you learned?
Sure. Well, it's funny you say that because the quality is extremely different. Because this trip, we weren't going to be able to stay at one of the places that we really wanted to stay at, and I decided to pay the extra money so that my friends could stay at a much nicer place even than we've stayed in the past. So 5 years ago, it was okay, but now we're in a million plus, probably a million plus. It's probably a $2 million home. I don't even know how to quantify the neighborhood that we're staying in. Like it's brand new. And there's literally across the street. There's probably 15 in the subdivision we're in, and there's one new one going up next door. So if you hear some hammers going on, that's what's going on. So big difference.
So I just don't want to teach folks how to sell. I want them to see from you what you get when you learn how to sell. Some of the richest sons of this planet are salespeople. Back to our topic at hand, because I knew Derek before he knew how to speak to people, and
It's true.
I've seen him now to be actually a sales assassin. So this whole thing about recognizing when I talk about sales, for so many years we all just start to give our spiel without really any concept of what we're doing to the general conversation we're having with a prospective client in front of us. And then after we get told no enough and we get pissed off enough, we try to at least kind of semi-analyze, okay, where did I go wrong? Why didn't they buy from me? Anyway, so we're just throwing up on people. We're not even realizing what's going on. We're not even reading the room properly. And then we get told no enough, and then we try to change and adapt over time. And what we have come up with is a very clear, concise, what to say, when to say, how to say, in what order to say. That could be mix and match once you get comfortable with it. But we teach a method called the Shin Fu, and it is designed to ask the proper questions to the proper people. But in that, you still have to have a little bit of uh, a sixth sense about who you're talking to. For instance, have you ever talked to someone and a husband and wife, and one of them is like loving you? You know they're loving you, but the other one's not really saying very much. And you're
Mm.
thinking, normally what we do is focus on the one who loves us and go, I got this sale. This is mine, baby.
Hmm.
But that's not how we think anymore. The way we think now is, the other one's awful quiet. I have to bring them in this conversation to get affirmation that they're on board with this whole process. Because how many times have you sold to one person and you think it's a slam dunk and it gets shut down immediately by the other person? And you didn't,
I wonder how
you,
many times. I wonder how many times I did that in the past and never even noticed it though. Like I hear what you're like. I'm so aware of that now. Of 23 years in business, man, I've lost sale after sale after sale because that one person. As soon as they left, they probably like that jerk. We're never doing
Hmm.
business with that guy.
I left a meeting, a board meeting in the swimming pool days. I wasn't the salesman for the management contracts in my lifeguard business. And I left a meeting one time and I took two of my minors partners with me, but not my major partner who usually I went in his spot, right? And we went away, went out to dinner after. We high-fived each other because I killed it. They loved me. It was laughing, it was whatever. And then Monday morning, my partner comes in, my main partner goes, Steve, what the hell did you do at that meeting? They all hated you. And I'm like, they thought you were an arrogant jerk. I'm like, holy sh! I totally misread it. I totally thought they loved me, but it was anything but. In fact, they said they told my partner that when I left the room, they took our contract because we were bidding against four other companies and just threw it right in the trash.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have
So
any idea what went wrong?
yeah, I went in there all cocky because I know we were the best. And just because you're the best doesn't mean you need to come off like you're the best. I went in there all cocky, and I remember saying something like, we were talking about what they wanted. And I said, yeah, as long as you get a good job, like we'll show up every day and we make an acceptable profit, then that's a win-win combination. And I think that's what we're all looking for here. Well, they didn't really give a shit about my side of winning. They didn't
Right.
care that I needed to make an acceptable profit, nor did I need to bring that up and tell them. And it was a stupid thing for me to say, but that was just one of the things I remember saying because after you, after you think you did a great job and someone comes back and says you really sucked, at least I start to analyze what did I suck at? How did I do this? Because I don't want to do this again. So I took it
Mm.
as a self-learning moment because I totally misread the who was in that room. I didn't have any idea who I needed to speak to at all. So I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was also 27 years old. So,
Well,
eh,
what are you doing different?
well, first off, I speak to whoever calls me. And then I always include whoever doesn't call me. Is there someone else? I will always talk about that. And that's one of our processes that you have to speak. And it's bold stuff. It's like, suppose you have a conversation with someone and you want to paint their house and you agree on the phone in principle that 20 grand is what you want to paint that house based on some pictures. I will say stuff like, well, is is your wife or your husband okay with the 20 grand? And shut up. And of course they'll say something. They'll either say, "Oh, sure, they're okay with it." Now, to which case I'll say, "Well, maybe you should ask him. Just, I'd feel better if he knew you're spending 20 grand without insulting her. But then I'm waiting for, well, it's my money. I can spend it the way, I would need her to aggressively shut me down before I feel okay that the other person doesn't need to be included. But I'm always going to bring up the other person. And the other thing is, I would run out to meet anybody. I didn't even know who the hell I was going to meet. And I never even dawned on me to have everybody at the meeting. And so now I will not go. In fact, one of the stories I'm going to share in today's webinar is that exact thing. I had a great conversation with her, never talked to him, and the whole process went quicker than I thought it was going to go. And we hopped off the phone, and I didn't actually know, I didn't get confirmation a second go round that it's a $15,000 job. The husband is he definitely on board with this? Number three, I told her I had a consultation fee, but she said, no problem, just come on out, and then hung up the phone. Should have known it's $500 consultation fee, because $500 is pretty hefty for some contractor. It takes a lot of balls for a contractor to say, if you want to see my beautiful face, it's $500. So I had to put all this shit in an email, which is something I hate to do, but I had to grow 20 seconds of courage, put everything I wanted in an email, send it off to her and CC him, because we had emailed before, and get that affirmation, that third yes. Yes, we are okay with the budget. My husband is okay with the project. I am okay with the $500. Come on out with the meeting. And I was afraid to send the email. I actually was a little nervous because I'm like, this is pretty ballsy and pretty bold. I like to do that stuff through words on the phone because I can measure tonality and I can really feel people over the phone if I have to. But you can't feel people through a text or email. So those are a couple things. I'm way more. I'm very strict on my processes that I go through before I ever get in the car. And I'll tell you one more thing. And this is amazing. And I'm waiting to get shut down. But if I make it through this year, I will make it through 3 straight years of never leaving a backyard without a deposit check. Never.
There you go.
Well, proof's in the pudding. A lot of people, one of my first sales jobs years and years ago, a million years ago, holy crap, I sold windows and siding, and it was one of those companies where they're like, hey, if you're gonna, they called it a sit, hey, how did your sit go last night or whatever? And that was, you're sitting at the table, and the company policy was, and a lot of companies used to operate this way and a lot still do, is they will not set up an appointment if both decision makers are not physically present at the meeting. And I think it's a you look at why they want that. They want that so that you have all the buy-in that we're talking about here and everyone's on the same page. And I think a lot of contractors are afraid to bring up the topic of the other person because they don't want to get shut down. They don't want to be pushy, because quite honestly, that whole tactic, when people hear, oh, we both got to be there, that immediately says to them in not so many words, hey, you guys are going to buy something when we show up.